Sekou Kone, like Goodwill Kokonki and Chido Obi-Martin, are three players that I think Ruben Amorim should be given opportunities to over the rest of the season. In a previous video I analysed Kokonki, so I'll leave that video linked in the eye above, but in this video I'm going to be analysing Sekou Kone, specifically answering these questions. What specific attributes in Kone's skill set make me rate him so highly? What is the Carrilero role and why does Amorim need this type of player in his system? What examples of players are there throughout history who have thrived in this role? And what sort of systems can the Carrilero be used in? And why is the Carrilero so important in the modern game tactically, both in and out of possession? So before coming on to the intricacies of the Carrilero role, let me first break down why I rate Sekou Kone so highly. So I think the game he played against Huddersfield on his debut for the under-21s before he eventually came off injured gave us a glimpse into how good he could be. Take this clip for example, the pass goes out to the Huddersfield player on the touchline and the United players on that side do well to squeeze across and up the pitch in order to initiate a man-to-man press. But in the centre you can see the Huddersfield central midfielder is looking to drop off from the midfield line to open up a passing lane into his feet. But look how quickly Kone not only reads this situation, but also covers this ground in order to then jump in front of the central midfielder as the pass has been played. But this is what really impressed me. See, as the player is receiving possession, he's actually done well to turn his body, keeping it between Kone and the ball, but Kone shows what I would describe as creative tackling ability, a term not used very often, but for me there are certain defensive-minded, ball-winning midfielders who have the ability to use unusual tackling techniques and styles in order to win the ball from positions that you wouldn't normally expect them to win. With Agate's vicious tenacity and aggression when stepping forward in the press to make a standing tackle or an interception being one example of this type of defensive creativity, as well as Amadou Onana's recovery tackling ability when he's able to use his athleticism and long legs to eat up the yards before going to ground and putting in a sweeping sliding tackle. And here we see Sekou Kone's own example, as most central midfielders pushing out to apply pressure would have simply pushed onto the opposition player's back with the intention of stopping them turning and forcing them to play backwards. But it is very hard to actually be able to win possession from this sort of position. However, Kone shows why he could be a counter-pressing threat just like Agate, as he's able to wrap his right foot around the left side of the central midfielder, meaning that even though he himself can't get in front of the player to make the interception, because he's kind of dangled his right foot around him in an unorthodox way, he's able to make a tackle with what looks to be his right heel, connecting with the ball fairly and now winning possession in the Huddersfield half, and now United are able to drive forward into the space, having the ball in behind the Huddersfield midfield line, setting them up for the perfect counter-pressing situation. And as you'll see throughout this video, this is just one of numerous examples of Kone showing his capabilities in the press, but also his value defensively in deeper areas, as well as maybe even being more useful in possession than Agate currently is. But before I come on to that and explain the specific Carrilero role that I think Kone could thrive in Amorim's system, and give some historical examples of players who've played this role, a quick reminder, I have got a Patreon, where for just $1.50 a month you can get exclusive access to my unreleased articles. I've done deep dives into Luis Campos' magic at Monaco, Beppe Marotta's masterstrokes at Sampdoria, and I've also put an article out recently on how modern football could learn a thing or two from Leonardo da Vinci. But that's not it, as for $5 a month you can unlock even more. You can get free access to my in-game Instagram group chat, where I provide tactical analysis during the Manchester United games and we have topics and discussions throughout the week. You can request custom articles in the group chat as well, just drop your ideas. And also I am close to releasing a few different ebooks, and so if you are in the group chat when one of those ebooks are released, you will get it for free. You can also get a 7-day free trial, and I'll put on some free articles on the Patreon for you to check out as well. If you do want to sign up, it would be very much appreciated. I'll leave it linked in all the usual places, the eye above, description, comment section, and on the end screen after the video. But now we move on to the Carrilero, football's tactical chameleon. So any great system in football is built on layers of complexity. It's a game of patterns, rhythms and subtle adjustments that need to be made, where the smallest tactical tweak can ripple across the pitch and change the course of a match. And yet for all the intricacies, football often boils down to one simple truth: the team that controls the midfield usually controls the game. Enter the Carrilero, a role so nuanced and tactically rich that it defies easy categorization, but has grown to prominence due to Football Manager using it as one of its roles in the game, which is going to be where a lot of you are familiar with the term. The Carrilero is not as glamorous as a playmaker, as destructive as a defensive midfielder, or as dynamic as a box-to-box midfielder. Instead, the Carrilero exists kind of in the space between, a hybrid player who thrives in the margins. Essentially what I'd describe as a more tactically astute version of a ball-winning midfielder or a traditional defensive midfielder. Now the term carrilero comes from the Spanish word carril, meaning lane or track, and it is a fitting name for a role that revolves around movement and positioning. The carrilero is a central midfielder who operates in what you'd call the half spaces, the channels between the central midfield and the flanks. Think of them as a shuttler, a player who covers the ground laterally to help the attack and the defence. In many ways, the carrilero is a product of football's tactical evolution. As systems have become more fluid and roles more specialised, managers and coaches have begun to seek players who can bridge the gap between different areas of the pitch. The carrilero emerged as the answer, a player who could provide defensive cover, link play, and the added width when needed. But a carrilero is more than just a utility player. They are a tactical chameleon, adapting to the demands of the game and the needs of their team. In possession, they might drift wide to create overloads or tuck inside to form a compact midfield. Out of possession, they act as a safety net, covering for overlapping fullbacks or wingbacks and intercepting direct passes from the opposition when they look to find the forward line. And so the carrilero's responsibilities can be summarised as the following. Their defensive duties are to provide balance, being aware of and then covering the spaces left by more offensive-minded teammates. But in possession, they also provide link play, moving the ball from the deeper areas of the pitch into the opposition's half with quick and incisive passes. And crucially, they provide tactical flexibility. They adapt to the flow of the game, shifting their positions and moving into different areas depending on what the system at the time needs. In essence, the carrilero is the ultimate team player, what some may call a water carrier, a midfielder who thrives on selflessness and intelligence. And this is the role that in the next few years I think Amorim could use Kone in order to improve the overall functioning of the midfield, both in and out of possession. And this clip perfectly showcases how Kone could be the guard dog in the United midfield, breaking up attacks before they even get into the final third. You can see here he's taking up a position around the centre circle, and the Huddersfield left back is going to play a forward pass looking for the centre forward's feet. But look at how quickly Kone is able to read the game, eat up the ground and accelerate across those short distances to make the interception and stop the attack in its tracks. But unusually for what you would regard as a ball winner or a defensive-minded midfielder, it's in possession where I think Kone shows why his potential is so high, as he's so comfortable and composed when receiving the ball with his back to go under pressure, as his technical ability and fluidity in his movement enables him to swivel out of the pressure, and once he's able to turn and get going, he's either able to glide past oncoming players or thread a pass to split the midfield line. Whether it's his ball carrying, dribbling or incisive passing, Kone isn't just limited to being a ball winner, as you could argue Agate is. In possession, you could actually argue that Kone has the attributes to be the type of central midfielder who could drop deeper in the build-up phase using his press resistance to receive the ball under pressure and then play out of the defensive third, whilst also being valuable against deeper defensive blocks when it comes to progressing the ball from in front of to in behind their midfield line. And so in reality, whilst initially I think Sekou Kone would come in as kind of an industrious water carrier in Amorim's midfield, I think he has the potential to be one of the most complete central midfielders in the Premier League, excelling defensively, offensively, and when it comes to his athleticism and physicality. But before I break down how Kone would function in a carrilero role in Amorim's 3-4-3, let's look at some other examples of players who have played this kind of role. And these are often the unsung heroes of the game, the midfielders who may not have graced the cover of FIFA or won the Ballon d'Or, but in many ways were just as indispensable to their teams. Clarence Seedorf and Arturo Vidal are two of the finest examples of players who have mastered this role. But how were they used tactically, what were the systems that allowed them to flourish, and which of their teammates benefited most from their selflessness and intelligent play? So Clarence Seedorf's career was a masterclass in versatility. At AC Milan under Carlo Ancelotti, he was often deployed as a carrilero in either a 4-3-1-2 or a 4-3-2-1 formation, often known as a Christmas tree. And Seedorf's role in this system was to shuttle between the flanks and the centre, providing the defensive cover for the fullbacks, who without wingers ahead of them were expected to push forward down the flanks and provide the width in the system, with Seedorf also expected to drop deep and provide the link play between the defensive and forward lines. And Seedorf's intelligence and technical ability made him the perfect foil for Andrea Pirlo, Milan's deep line playmaker, or what you'd call a regista. While Pirlo would orchestrate from deep, Seedorf's lateral movement created passing lanes and overloads, allowing Pirlo to dictate the tempo of play. Seedorf's ability to drift wide and defend there if there was a transition also gave the licence to the attacking fullbacks Cafu on the right and Paolo Maldini on the left to push further forward, knowing that he would cover the spaces they left. And in this system, Seedorf's carrilero role was also crucial to unlocking the creativity of Kaká, Ancelotti's trequartista at the top of the diamond or the Christmas tree. And he did this by providing balance and defensive cover. Seedorf allowed Kaka to focus on what he did best, receiving the ball and driving at defences, creating chances and scoring goals in the final third. But about a decade later, Arturo Vidal's time at Juventus under Antonio Conte showcased the Carrilero role at its most dynamic. In Conte's 3-5-2 system, Vidal operated as one of the two wider central midfielders, shuttling between the flanks and the centre to provide width in possession and also defensive cover. Vidal's relentless energy and combative style made him a nightmare for opposition midfielders, but it was his tactical intelligence which truly set him apart. Vidal knew when to press, when to hold, and when to make forward runs, making him the ultimate team player. And in this setup, Vidal's Carrilero role was instrumental in not just providing the defensive security and getting the best out of Andrea Pirlo in a similar regista role to the one we saw him play under Seedorf at AC Milan, but was also integral to getting the best out of Paul Pogba, Juventus' box-to-box midfielder. As well as Pogba would run forward, Vidal provided the defensive stability and tactical discipline that allowed Pogba to express himself. Vidal's ability to cover ground also gave license to the wing-backs Stefan Lichtsteiner and Quando Asamoah to push higher up the pitch, stretching the play and creating overloads. But what are the best systems for a Carrilero? Well, the Carrilero is a role that thrives in specific tactical setups. In a 4-3-3 system with a single pivot, the Carrilero can operate as one of the two more advanced midfielders, with their job being to provide balance, covering for the fullbacks when they push forward on the outside of the system, with the Carrilero being positioned on the side where maybe you've got the most defensive fullback who's going to be pushing forward more often, because then this provides balance where they can tuck in and fill that space as that player drives forward, whilst also dropping into deeper positions in possession and being a player to look to thread passes between the lines and overall just link the play. But they could also be used in either a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. In a 3 at the back system, the Carrilero often plays as one of the central midfielders, providing the width but also the defensive cover, with their ability to shuttle between the flanks and the centre, making them invaluable in these sort of systems because you've obviously got two wing backs who usually provide the sole width in the system, so you need the defensive security behind them to allow them to push forward and provide the width further up the pitch. But it can also be used in a 4-4-2 diamond, with the Carrilero playing as one of the shuttlers in one of the two wider central midfield positions in the diamond, where once again, because there aren't natural wingers in the system, the fullbacks are going to be expected to push further forward, and so the Carrilero provides defensive cover to allow them to do this. And so this brings us on to why the Carrilero is so vital from a tactical point of view, as the Carrilero's importance relies on their ability to provide balance and flexibility. In possession they can create overloads and facilitate transitions, and out of possession they act as a safety net, covering spaces and breaking up attacks. Now in the modern game where systems are fluid and roles are interchangeable, the Carrilero is the ultimate tactical weapon. They are the player who can adapt to any situation, fill in gaps and provide solutions when needed. So this is how Sekou Kone would improve Amorim's system, playing that Carrilero role. So on paper, if you set up the side in a 3-4-3, Kone could come in for Agate, which I think would work well against sides where United are going to dominate possession, and so need to be able to break down deeper defensive units, which Kone's ball progression and press resistance could definitely provide, but still provide the defensive security in the midfield in case of counter-attacks. But I also think Kone's addition to the side could give the wing-backs more defensive security to push further forward in possession, particularly Ahmad on this right side. And that's because if you use Mainu in one of those two interior forward positions in the front three, either side of the centre forward, he can drop in and create a midfield three at times, fluidly moving from in behind the opposition's midfield to in front of the midfield line depending on what the play needs. And using Kone in this Carrilero role could also allow Amorim to use an overlapping wide centre-back like Dalot in the right-sided centre-back position, meaning that when United have the ball in the middle or the final third down the right side, Dalot can push forward from right-sided centre-back and provide those overlapping runs ahead of Ahmad, creating a 2v1 situation, either allowing Ahmad to feed Dalot down the outside or dragging the fullback deeper with Dalot's run, opening up the space for Ahmad to cut into. With Sekou Kone, rather than moving into a central position or joining the attack on that flank, he can instead hold a deeper position temporarily in the back three, guarding in case United lose possession and the opposition look to counter quickly down that right side, which Dalot and Ahmad have vacated, and Kone would be perfect for this role as he's got the athleticism and the pace to eat up the yards, as well as the tackling ability to defend in these sort of 1v1 positions. I also think Sekou Kone's addition to the midfield would aid United in the build-up phase as well. See, the current problem that I see with Amorim's build-up system is that he's pushing the central centre-back, which is usually going to be De Ligt or Maguire, to the edge of the box, and I just don't think either player are comfortable here because they don't have the press resistance to receive the ball and either play a quick few bounce passes or fluidly drop a shoulder and swivel before driving out of the pressure. However, Kone could certainly do this, and so in Amorim's usual setup when United have the ball from a goal kick or when Onana has the ball inside his own box, De Ligt can start on the edge of the box, but as the ball gets shifted to the left side, for example, this is where Dalot can move into a wider position. De Ligt can drop onto the right side of the back three, also working to drag one of the opposition forwards away from that central area on the edge of the box, wherefrom Amad can now push higher up the flank, and this would open up the space on the edge of the box for Sekou Kone to drop into, wherefrom Onana could split the two forwards, play the pass into Kone, and from here he's got the ability to be able to bounce passes around the pressure or just turn and swivel and play forward. Wherefrom United now have genuine pace on the artificial counter-attack, with Amad given the licence to push further forward alongside Garnacho, both able to make runs ahead of Xerxes, even though Amad is playing as a right wing back, and that all comes from using a Carolero type shuttler like Kone, who can benefit not just Amad but also Dalot or Mazraoui playing as the right sided centre back on that side. And so in the short term, from now till the end of the season, I think Amorim has to bring Kone into the midfield, because his skill set is something that United don't really have. Casemiro doesn't have the athleticism of Ugarte, nor the press resistance of Kone, and Ugarte doesn't have Kone's vision and progressive passing, or the press resistance either. And so Kone, if you look at his skill set, if he is developed in the right way over the next few seasons, I genuinely think he could overtake Ugarte and be United's starting central midfielder. So let me know what you think of Kone in the comment section below. If you do want to sign up to my Patreon, read the articles, as well as get access to the in-game Instagram group chat, I'll leave that linked on the end screen now.